The prophet's oracle of judgment in our first reading sends shivers down my spine. He is pronouncing a prophetic curse on the prince of Tyre. Apparently, this ruler had become so arrogant, he even insulted Yahweh, the God of Israel, claiming to be wiser than God himself, all because he was clever enough to climb his way to power and gain so much influence by shamelessly bowing in subservience to a foreign empire. To paraphrase him, the prophet is saying, "Let us see what becomes of you when another world power will bring down your patron. Let's see where you will find yourself when your own horde of murderers will turn against you. When you get a dose of your own medicine, it is then that you will realize how foolish you are to play God. You will die the most humiliating kind of death." In the gospel, Jesus is also speaking like a prophet of doom, denouncing those who are deluded by power and wealth. Remember what we quoted about hubris and nemesis a few weeks ago from Proverbs chapter 16, verse 18, which says, "Pride goes before a destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." In Hebrew, the question, "Who is like God?" is the meaning of the name of the archangel Michael. Michael. In Hebrew, Mikael. Mi, who is, ka, like, El, God. Mikael, who is like God. Michael is identified in later Jewish tradition as the heavenly warrior whose role is precisely to challenge Satan, the fallen angel. The story has it that it was Satan's pride that led to his downfall. His motto is, "I will not serve," because he thinks himself or thinks of himself as superior to all other creatures. You know, even in the verses of the Quran, you encounter passages about the fall of the devil, who is called Iblis in Islamic literature. The fall of the devil is caused by his pride. How the devil had been commanded by Allah to bow before Adam, and how he reacted with vehemence because he considered himself to be a more dignified creature than Adam, whom he considered to be a lower creature. And so from then on, the Quran tells us the devil made it his vision and mission to serve as a stumbling block for humankind, just to prove God wrong and to assert his superiority. You see, the theology of evil is shared commonly by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In the book of Genesis, we read in chapter 3 how God expelled Adam and Eve from paradise because they had fallen into the trick of the serpent to eat of the forbidden fruit. The serpent had deceived them into believing that by eating of that fruit, they would be like God. The writer tells us that after they were cast out, God installed by the gate of paradise an angel and a flaming sword. Later Jewish literature, especially in the Apocrypha, would put the angel and the flaming sword together. That is how we get the portrayal of Saint Michael as the archangel with the flaming sword. His job is supposedly to guard the entrance gate of paradise and to challenge anyone who attempts to enter through that gate with his name as a challenge. You have to answer his question. And the question is his name, Mikael, who is like God. You have to tell me who is like God. You know, this literary character would eventually become something like a riddle. And Christianity would be founded on the narrative of regaining paradise after losing it. You probably remember in your college years the epic poems of John Milton, Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. The Archangel Michael by the door, standing like a security guard of the Garden of Eden, has become like a prophecy that a time will come when the poor, banished children of Adam and Eve would finally be able to regain access to paradise. Remember? There was supposed to be another mysterious tree in the Garden of Eden, aside from the tree of desire for power that had brought about death for Adam and Eve. The other tree was called the tree of life. Sayang, no? We discovered the tree of death before we discovered the tree of life. Christian tradition will see in the cross of Jesus Christ the tree of life. And in Jesus Christ's life-giving body and blood, the fruit of the tree of life. He becomes the answer to Michael's challenge to those who want to enter paradise. Who is like God? No one but the Son of God, who, although he was in the form of God, did not deem equality with God as something to be grasped. Rather, he emptied himself, took the form of a slave, being born in human likeness. He humbled himself, becoming obedient unto death, even death on a cross. Sounds familiar? I just quoted all of that from St. Paul in Philippians chapter 2, the famous hymn on kenosis, self-emptying, which I personally chose as my motto as bishop. Please remember this. I am telling this to you as a secret, especially to all of you who might be aspiring to enter through the gates when your own time will come. Just be ready for the challenge of Michael. Be ready to answer the question, who is like God? Here is the secret. The answer is a name, the sweetest name of all. a name that is above every name. For at the mention of this name, Paul says, every knee shall bend, of those in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Then you will see how the gates will be flung open to welcome us all into God's dwelling, God's eternal embrace by the power of that name.